Hi G Movies here and welcome. Spoilers ahead. The movie begins in 2010, a time when an organization called WikiLeaks publishes secret records of the Afghan war. All the atrocities and war crimes by the United States are disclosed. Soon, the whole world learns of the secrets divulged by two individuals, who have left everyone speechless. Going back 2 years earlier, to 2007, explaining how things began. A journalist named Daniel Berg is not just a journalist, but harbors a passion for online activism. This led him to Julian Assange, an Australian journalist. The two have corresponded by email for a long time, and understand the importance of finding and disseminating the right information. After a long time, Daniel has the opportunity to meet Julian Assange, at the Chaos Communication Congress in Berlin. During this event, Julian exposes his site WikiLeaks to a small group of people. But not everyone yet realizes the power of his words. WikiLeaks is dedicated to the disclosure of information hidden from the public, while maintaining the anonymity of sources. In the long run, they were joined by many hackers from around the world, to disclose the secret information of their government to the public. The only thing stopping hackers before was the possibility of being discovered and punished. Now, however, they are able to hide so effectively, that even Julian does not know who the hackers working with him are. After the event, Julian takes Daniel to the top of a building, and starts talking about his difficult childhood, when he was abused by his stepfather. Daniel takes him to a building filled with bums and people partying, taking alcohol and substances. Once inside, Julian says he wants to work, and Daniel takes him to a room. The two then start chatting on their computers, to prevent anyone from overhearing them talking. Julian states that the chat is completely encrypted and secure. Thanks to a program he created in the past, it is almost impossible to decrypt or find their chat. He mentions a private Swiss bank, Julius Baer, whose branch in the Cayman Islands has been involved in illegal activities. His goal is to find this secret information and release it to the public. In the following days, Daniel finds out who the employees of the bank are, to confirm the fact that they were involved in those illegal activities. Subsequently, he meets with a former employee of the bank, who reveals important information. Daniel reassures him that, thanks to their software, no one can ever know he helped them. WikiLeaks publishes information about the Swiss bank Julius Baer on their site. Then the bank receives a message with a link to the site, where they discover the whole world is now aware of their illegal activities. The bank director immediately orders a lawsuit against the site, but nevertheless, Julian reassures Daniel they will have no problems. While Daniel is working on WikiLeaks at his journalist workstation, a colleague named Anka finds out. However, she likes Daniel, and decides to keep his secret, and proposes to him that they have dinner together at her house. After spending the night together, he tells her the site has been shut down, and he must now meet urgently with Julian. The two meet in a bar, and they were prepared for such an ending. So they set up mirror sites, where they post the secret information about the Swiss bank. Also in the evening, Julian receives a message that the judge has dissolved the bank's injunction, allowing them to reclaim their domain. Extremely happy, Daniel suggests they celebrate, and call their co-workers via video calls. Smiling, Julian takes him into a room, and when he starts the video call, his face appears on the screen. At this point, Julian reveals that from the beginning, it has been just the two of them. There is no such thing as a few collaborators, he just created false online identities, to make the media believe WikiLeaks is not just two good hackers, but a real army. Initially, Daniel is frightened by the idea that there are two of them, against everyone. Then Julian tells him that at first, he was working together with two other hackers, but one of them was caught by the authorities, and almost sent Julian behind bars. From that day on, he chose very carefully who to work with, and after investigating Daniel deeply, he realized he can trust him. As their trust grew, the two went on to publish information over the next 3 years, including secrets about Scientology, the revelation of Sarah Palin's email account, and the list of British National Party members. Once they gain fame, public opinion is on their side. Julian and Daniel decide to make their identities public. During a presentation of the site seeking funders, two competing WikiLeaks journalists laugh about the site being slow. At that point, Daniel suggests using his savings to acquire more servers, and take it to the next level. Soon, the duo buy servers across Europe. Once they arrive in Stockholm, Daniel introduces Julian to one of the world's most powerful hackers, Marcus. It turns out that Marcus has been investigating Julian's past, and congratulates him on his prowess. In private, Daniel says Marcus wants to work with them. Julian says he can program, but he doesn't need to have access to the main server. Over time, the relationship between the two becomes strained. In addition, Daniel loses his job, and problems arise in his relationship with Anka, particularly over the leak of information about BNP members, which also revealed the addresses of the people involved, and caused many to lose their jobs. When Anka points out they spend little time together, he approaches her and they start kissing. Suddenly, they hear someone knocking at the door. Daniel opens it, and Julian quickly enters, preparing to work on new information about WikiLeaks. Anka gets dressed and leaves. Daniel follows her, and she forces him to choose her or Julian. He says they are working on a very important project, and he cannot abandon it. So she leaves and Daniel returns to the apartment. Julian then gives him a speech about the importance of being dedicated to his work, and reveals he has a son who he has not seen in a year. He openly mocks Daniel's concerns about these problems, insinuating his life has been more problematic. Another string of successes for WikiLeaks follows, and the duo comes to know a journalist does publicity for them. Afterwards, the two friends together with the journalist spend the evening at a local nightclub, celebrating. Next, an important political figure in Africa is killed, along with his driver, after people learn about the activity of their evil deeds on WikiLeaks. Subsequently, this event greatly worries Julian, which creates tension between him and Daniel. Since their site threatens important political figures around the world, their site could be hacked any moment, and Marcus offers to help. Some time later, WikiLeaks leaks important information about the September 11th incident. At this point, the CIA is looking for a way to stop the site, but they are not ready for it. When Daniel tells Julian that Marcus knows how to help them, he does not take it well, because of trust. After a WikiLeaks event, Julian meets Daniel's parents, who invite him to have dinner together. However, after Julian goes to their house, he leaves without saying anything. Daniel catches up with him shortly afterwards, and asks for an explanation, to which he simply says his parents are stuffy. An argument breaks out between the two, because Julian is jealous of Daniel, who takes great credit for the success of WikiLeaks. Daniel begins to suspect that Julian only cares about protecting sources, so that people will come forward, and that he does not care who is harmed by the site, even though Julian argues that the harm the site may cause is outweighed by the good that the leaks create. Moving to Egypt, where a CIA agent meets an informant. The agent learns of the amount of weapons still available to an enemy at war with the United States. Later, the agent returns to a plane, and her superior orders her to release the documents to the various departments. Back to Daniel, he visits his girlfriend, who tells him she believes in his cause, but it is his job to keep Julian from going too far. After another event involving WikiLeaks, Julian goes to a restaurant with two journalists. Here, he discovers he is surrounded by CIA and KGB agents. He realizes he is not safe here, so he calls Daniel, and informs that he wants to leave the country. Tensions come to a climax, when Bradley Manning, a US soldier, leaks hundreds of thousands of documents to WikiLeaks, including the collateral murder video of an airstrike in Baghdad, records of the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and 250,000 US diplomatic cables. Julian wants to release the documents immediately, but Daniel insists they go through them first. Later, some major newspapers agree to cooperate with WikiLeaks in releasing the documents, giving them a positive image. However, both Daniel and the newspapers demand that the names of the documents be redacted, both to protect the sources and to help media dissemination, which Julian reluctantly agrees to. However, a few days later, Daniel realizes that Julian has no intention of keeping his promise, and wants to publish the names of political figures involved in war conflicts anyway. After a discussion, Julian tells Daniel he no longer needs him, and replaces him. Subsequently, Julian circulates tweets saying Daniel is mentally ill. He also puts him in a bad light, saying he only has a thirst for power. Newspapers publish the redacted documents. The resulting media and public outcry forces the whistleblowers to flee their countries of residence, and many US diplomats to resign. Before the Egyptian CIA informant's life is put in danger, an agent contacts him and informs him of the danger. The informant gets into his car, and returns home to take his family away. However, intruders pursue him. The informant and his family successfully cross the border, but they do not know what to do next. Before Julian can go any further, Daniel and other members of the original WikiLeaks team delete the site, and block Julian's access to the server. Daniel later talks to a Guardian reporter, and the two fear that giving Julian such a large platform was a mistake. The journalist tells Daniel that although Julian may be unreliable, he had done a good thing by uncovering secret government and business dealings, and trying to protect sources. Daniel also reveals the real reason for Julian's hair color. It was a custom of the cult he belonged to in Australia. WikiLeaks continues to leak information, and it is assumed Julian took over the site or reconstructed it, and Manning's documents were made public without any redactions. Daniel writes a book about his involvement in all this, and Julian threatens to sue in retaliation. Julian is seen living in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, to avoid arrest on a warrant for alleged sex crimes. In an interview, he denounces the 2 upcoming WikiLeaks films, saying they will be factually inaccurate, being based in part on Daniel's book. He then informs viewers that individuals are what the government is afraid of, and that hiring Daniel was the only mistake he made. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe us for more videos.